everyone, and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. On today's episode, I thought I'd do another Creative Toolbox episode. We're in that Easter time period, and we start to think about bunny rabbits and things like that, and the cute parts of Easter, you know, with the kids and stuff like that, the Easter baskets. It's a fun time of the year. But anyway, I thought we'd do a really fun, whimsical Easter painting today. I've provided a link for you so you can go ahead and download this image and follow along with me if you'd like to do that. If that helps, this is going to be pretty simple. I'm going to use some different techniques today on this image, combine some different methods inside of TOPAZ Studio 2. Now, you could start out in TOPAZ Studio 2 as a standalone app or start out in Photoshop. I'm going to show you my method because I always start out in Photoshop. I duplicated the background layer, called it TOPAZ Studio 2. We'll come up to Filter, and I will launch TOPAZ Studio 2, and we will get started. The first thing we're going to do is add an abstraction filter just to take some of the detail out of the rabbit. Okay, so we're going to come up here to Add Filter, and come to the Abstraction filter, and I'm just going to take the Simplify size and start to pull it up. And when I do that, see how the detail starts to go out of its fur? So I'm going to come up to right around here. I think that looks good. And then I'm going to play around with some of these other sliders, like the feature boost. I'll turn it up and you can see what that's doing. I don't really like what's happening there. I'm not going to mess with that one. But the detail strength, I think I'm going to pull this up a little bit. And I don't know, not too much. But see, that's adding some more detail as I keep pulling it up. Of course, I'm taking detail out, right? So I don't want to put too much back in, but I'm just fine-tuning the image a little bit, adding a little extra detail. Now I'm just going to click on my image right here, left click with my mouse, hold it down. Here's the before and here's the after. So basically, I'm taking some detail out of the image and kind of already it's starting to take on a painterly type quality to it. Isn't that just the cutest little rabbit? I just want to pet that thing, okay? So let me go here to Add Filter. Next, I'm going to come down to the Stylistic section and add a texture overlay to this image here, okay? Now, I'm going to use a texture that all of you guys will probably have and gals, if you have TOPAZ Studio 2. This should be part of TOPAZ Studio 2 for you. So let's come and into the search here and just type Big Sur. This is one of Hazel Meredith's textures, and I really enjoy her textures. And this is a really good one, and it's this guy right here. So if you type Big Sur, it's going to pull up some filters here, or not filters. I call them filters. I mean to call them textures. They are textures. But Big Sur is right here, so just give that a click. And there you go. There's Big Sur on there. Now we need to change the blending mode. And we're going to change it to, let's hover through some of these. I know it's going to be multiply, but I'm going to hover through some of these so you can see the changes. And I love this. When you hover over these guys, you will see the change take place, which is really nice to help you determine which blending mode is going to work. And a lot of times you don't really know. When I'm starting these projects, I don't know what blending mode I'm going to use. So I'll go through all these different guys, and you never know. You might find one that you wouldn't think you would use that's going to look perfect. Like that on color looks kind of cool. Kind of like the muted look, but that's not what I'm using today. I'm going to go back to multiply, and I like multiply. So we're going to use multiply. And now let me start to slide down through here, and we're going to kind of work around here and change things up here a little bit. What I think I want to do is I think the multiply blend mode is making the image a little too dark. So I'm going to lighten it up. But first I want to take the opacity. I'm going to pull the opacity up the whole way, because it's going to have a stronger effect when I do that, right? But now the image is too dark, so now let's take the brightness and adjust it. So I'm going to start to move this brightness slider to the right, and as I do, see how it lightens everything up? And I'm going to maybe go right around here to start out with. And I'm going to pull some more detail out here. So we have all these really cool sliders inside of TOPAZ Studio 2 in the texture filter, which is nice. We have this detail slider. So I think I want to bump up the detail a bit on this thing, and maybe right around there. And the other thing I want to do is, I don't like some of the color that's coming into the image now, so I'm going to take the saturation and just pull it the whole way off. And now I have my original colors back to my image, which is really nice. Now I think it's a little too strong, the overall effect, so I'm going to take the overall opacity and start to pull it back. Just to, you know, something that looks right. And I think maybe right around 72 looks good. But see how that texture of Hazel's is giving us a nice painterly look to the image, and I think that really looks nice. Now, I might just bump that detail back a little bit. Just a little tiny wee bit. Just soften it up just a smidge. And right there, so far, so good. And I'm going to leave it on everything. It's not hurting the rabbit at all. I'm just going to leave that texture lie over everything. The next thing I want to do is add a little bit of more painterly look to the rabbit. Now, I love the background, but I only want to concentrate on the rabbit. I'm going to use some layer masking here. So we're going to add another filter, come back down to stylistic. Another one of my favorites, the impression filter. On every creative toolbox, I generally use the impression filter. Not always, but a lot of times. And I did this image beforehand, so I know what brush I did. Now, normally I'm going to click through these brushes, and try different brushes and see what they do to my image here. But I ended up with brush type 11. But you see all these little white flecks in there, which looks really nice and whimsical, right? But I don't think I want them in this image. So if you watch my tutorials in the past, you see I do this a lot. I come down to texture and keep sliding down and change my background type from solid to original. And when I do, those little flecks of white go away. So I want to do that on this image. Now let's come back up to the top. Now we need to pick out like the number of strokes we want. Do we want low? Do we want medium? Do we want high? But I think I settled for, and I forgot to write this down, but I think I settled for medium on here. But now I'm just looking at the rabbit. Don't look at the rest of the background, because that's all going to come back after we do some layer masking, okay? So I started out working with my brush size, and my brush size stayed right around where it was. I actually pulled it back to like a 48. Let me just try these number of strokes here real quick. Okay, there's a low number of strokes. Here's a medium. And you notice as I move this over to the right, it's getting more defined. And here's high. So was it medium? Was it high? I think it was high. Okay. And next I went to the paint volume. I bumped up the paint volume a little bit, and when I do that, you can see how the paint strokes start showing through some more. And I brought that volume up to around 11, somewhere around in there. And then my paint opacity, I bumped that up. It's right now is at 50 right in the middle, but as I move that up, so you can see some of that paint start to really show through when I pull up the opacity. And I pulled the opacity up to right around 69, 70. And then I worked with the width of the stroke. And I pulled that back a little bit to like a minus 26. It just shortens or narrows the width down a little bit. I'm going too much. I'm minus 26, Dave. How about minus 27? And length. I brought that to the right. I made the length a little bit longer. See how the length gets longer as I move it? Giving it more of that hair look, it makes the hair look a little longer. So that's what I was thinking there. Or the fur, I should say, right? It's fur. So I brought that up to around 23. And again, I'm only looking at my rabbit here. And that's really all I did there. And then I came up to the layer mask and clicked this icon right here. I inverted the layer mask by coming down to the impression section here and clicked on these three dots, inverted that mask. Now when I do that, painterly goes away, right? And so now what I'm going to do is paint it on my rabbit. Okay, so I'm going to get a brush. And I'm going to take this transparency slider and bump it the whole way to the right so it's white. So remember, on a layer mask, black conceals, white reveals. So, and then you have any range in between here, so you can get any tone of gray in here to, get fine-tuning adjustments on your painting. So I'm going to take it the full way to white so I get the full amount of the painterly effect. I'm going to adjust my brush size a little bit smaller. I'm going to leave the softness right in the center. It's pretty soft brush with edge wear on. And now I'm just going to start to paint on my rabbit here and put the painterly effect. When I paint with white paint, that painterly effect will start to go onto my little bunny rabbit here. And he's going to turn more into a painting. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to stay off the grassy areas that are coming through my rabbit here. But I mainly want to stay on the rabbit. Okay, so we're just coming in here, painting in all these little areas here. I'm going kind of fast here, but take your time. I'm getting a little sloppy, but I think that's looking cool. And I'm going to take this layer mask and I'll copy it for another thing I'm going to do later. So I'll show you how you can copy a layer mask and save time. I like my results so far, but let's go ahead and shut off the impression layer. Let's see what the rabbit looked like before the painterly. So he looked like that, and now he looks like this. So yeah, we're going in the right direction. I want to work a little bit with his some detail, and to do that, I'm going to use a favorite filter of mine after I do the impression. And if you watch my videos in the past, you know I do this all the time, and that is the precision contrast. To me, these two filters go hand in hand. Now, I'm only worrying about the rabbit right now, so I'm going to make some adjustments here. Precision contrast. The micro contrast, I'm going to bump it up, and you'll see some more details starting to pop out in the rabbit. Now, don't worry about the background here. I'm not really concerned about that. I'm only looking at the rabbit when I'm making my adjustments. So there's micro. Now I'm going to work with low. But see how I can bring some really cool little details out in the rabbit with that? And I'm going to bring this up to right around to 26, 27, 28, somewhere in there. And then let's play with the medium. And the medium... Yeah, see how I'm getting some nice, some of these medium contrast areas are getting darker here. Now that's too much, but I like the direction I'm going. I'm going to back that off. And this is how you can really fine tune your adjustments here. But isn't that looking great? Now again, the background looks horrible. Now I'm going to work with the shadow adjustment here. I'm going to deepen up my shadows a little bit. And look at I'm looking at the back end of the rabbit here when I do this. And I'm going to pull this back. I don't want to go too crazy here. The shadow adjustment's not doing a whole lot for me, but the mid-tone adjustment is really going to be cool. So the mid-tone, I'm going to bump it back. See that? It's just darkening up the mid-tones of the rabbit. And I'm going to bring that back, not too far, but like right around here. Now I only want it in the rabbit because I hate what it's doing on the background here. So this is what I meant when I said I'm going to show you how to copy mask. I'm going to right click on this impression mask right here. Copy the mask. I'm going to come up to the precision contrast, right click, and paste the mask. And voila, it only adds that effect to the rabbit. Isn't that cool? So let's click this before and after. Here's the before, the contrast, precision contrast adjustment, and here's after. What do you think? I think it looks really nice. And if you felt you went too far, you can open this back up by clicking on precision contrast here, and you can get this opacity slider and you can start to pull back on it. But I like it up full strength. I think it looks really, really nice. Yeah, I think it's looking good. I love the painter look. Let's see the before and after. Let's click original so we can see the before to see where we've come from. All right, there's the before. So we've come a long way, and now here's the after. I definitely feel we've achieved that painterly look, and I'm really happy with this Easter painting. Before I save this out, let's recap. Let me go ahead and shut all these layers off and start at the beginning. So here's our original image. We added the abstraction filters just to take some detail out of the entire image. And that's really nice just the way it is there. We could have stopped there if we wanted to, but I had to keep going. So then we added some texture. Used Hazel Meredith's texture called Big Sur, and it added that nice painterly background for us. And then we went and added the impression filter and gave the rabbit a little bit more of a painterly look. And then I added some extra detail into the rabbit with the precision contrast filter. And so there we are. And now all we have to do is, if you started out in TOPAZ Studio 2, you can just come up here to File and save project as, give it a name and save it out. And to go back to Photoshop, all you need to do is click accept, and we'll be sent back into Photoshop. And one last time, here is the before, and here's the after. And one last thing I may do now that I'm here in Photoshop, and that is simply, let's get a curves adjustment layer, and I just want to bump up the midtone. So I'm just going to pull up in the center of the curve here and just bump up the midtones just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of lightening. So here's the before and here's the after. I think that looks good, just a little bit of lightening there. And there it is, everyone, a happy little Easter painting of a really cute little Easter bunny. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. If you did, please give it a like, share it with your friends. If you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe, click the bell notification icon, then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll be notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today on The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I'll see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing!